Former talk show host Bill Hicks once said that the US crackdown on drugs isn't a war on drugs, but a battle for personal freedom. And it's this exact sentiment that propelled me, Rehan Rupawala, a junior at Tompkins High School, in coalition with my mentor, a DEA special agent by the name of James Kane, to our solution today. A database to connect drug-addicted individuals within Katy to educational and rehabilitative resources. To understand this, we first have to understand the overarching problem, which is the disastrous increase in drug-related deaths in the past couple of years in the United States. In fact, the Pew Research Center, in a study taken in October of last year, found that in 2017 alone, over 72,000 Americans were subject to death because of drug-related abuses. And it's not drugs that are the problem, but rather the lack of awareness behind rehab programs. In fact, a Narconon study taken in Houston, surveying the entire nation, found that 96% of drug-addicted individuals don't go out to seek effective rehabilitation treatment because they aren't aware of the local centers near them and whether these centers have adequate or effective resources. This brings me to my primary concern today, which isn't the usage of drugs, but rather the awareness that is diminishing within the United States of effective rehab programs. But before we delve into my solution, it's important to understand historic solutions that already exist. The first, and perhaps most recognizable, is the National Helpline for Drug Abuse, which is a website that allows a drug-addicted individual to access it and call a recipient that will then direct them to assistance. The problem here is twofold. First, the helpline, each receiver for the helpline, has limited time to treat each individual, oftentimes resulting in the recipient just guiding the drug-addicted individual to more state assistance, which doesn't give the caller the aid that he needs. But second is that this national helpline, because it spans across the United States, is too broad in its accumulation of information to actually help a specific individual in a specific place. The second, and more local solution is workshops, evident in high schools and colleges alike, that seek to educate their students about the harms of drug abuse. Unfortunately, the problem with these workshops is twofold once again. The first issue is that they're not present everywhere because some resources and some colleges and schools don't have resources that others may have. But second, and perhaps most importantly, is that their scope is too small because they only care for a particular demographic, meaning that anyone that's not a high school teenager or a college student doesn't get the awareness that they need. The final, and perhaps most competent, solution that competes with my database is a website by the name of Research Service Katy, which basically goes on to list every single rehab center across the state, in the greater Houston area, and within Katy itself. Unfortunately, although this website seems to perform all the functions on the surface, it has a couple problems as well. The first is that it hasn't been updated since the year 2017, meaning that its information is more likely than not outdated when it comes to rehab care within Katy. But second, and most importantly, is that because it deals with a large scope of rehab centers across the greater Houston area, it only provides a list of the names of these rehab centers and a link to the websites. The problem then is that the drug-addicted individuals have to sift through every single website in order to find a rehab center that can cater to them. Problematic, because when it comes to drug addiction, time can mean life. So now, let's talk about my solution, which is an online database meant for Katy residents only, which is going to comprise of 4 integral facets of information. The first is the location of the rehab center that is being mentioned. The second is the costs of treatment of that specific rehab center. The third is the availability, meaning that is this a rehab center that's open 24/7, 7 days a week, or is it only open on, let's say, Tuesdays and Thursdays? And the final and most important is the treatment options offered by that specific rehab center. This is essential because there are centers that specify in teen abuse or female abuse, while others might have different specificities. By listing the specificities of each rehab center within my website, it'll enable me to connect people seeking rehab to the centers that can give them the most effective care much faster. Now let's explore why this solution will work. The first reason is that it's at a small scale, only within Katy, meaning that my information can actually go far in depth, something that a state or national solution couldn't. Second is that because it's at such a small scale, it'll be easy to access because there won't be hundreds of pages to sift through, but rather only a couple that give adequate detail of every center within Katy. And finally is that because I'm not driven by any commercial interest, the website will be unbiased and give each center equal weight. Now let's look at why it's feasible. The first is because it's low cost. When I researched over tens of website generators, they all had nominal fees for either creating and maintaining websites, meaning that I'll be able to afford it. But second is that because it's small scale, I'll be able to cover all the information involved. And finally, because it's simply a website link, it'll be easy for corporations or educational facilities to mass distribute it. So just for a recap, we surveyed the drug awareness problem within the United States, and then looked to my solution, a database solution located within Katy alone that can hopefully promote change for people seeking rehab in the future.